Hey everyone, it's the Grimm Reader, Kathy Grimm, with her best cup in the whole world, which is because it's a corgi, my favorite dog, on a chair. This is just me to a T. And I am here today to inaugurate a new, hopefully sort of a regular thing, a weekly installment that I'm just going to call the Grimm Reader chats or something to that effect. I haven't quite figured out what I will call these, but I think they're just going to be my weekly updates, and the center of them will be the reading, and around the center will be all the other stuff that kind of interacts with the reading and affects the reading per usual. Because that has been the case for many weeks now, maybe even the whole semester in a certain sense, which is now over. And we're completely, and I've also come back from my trip to Germany, which I'll also do a little bit of a debrief of in this sort of episode 0 of the whatever it's going to be called. If you have any suggestion, let me know. The Grimm Gab, the Grimm Reader reads, chats, I don't know. But I do want to make it a regular installment because I have a feeling this one hopefully won't be too long, but there's a lot of stuff to get to. So I wanted to start with this general feeling of unsettledness, I guess, that I've been having, and I think a lot of it stems from the lack of sort of clarity on what will happen to me with my job next year. And then in a way there is more clarity beyond that because I've decided to retire, but even that all was set into motion because of the fact that we don't have as many students to teach. And so it was sort of, the writing was on the wall that if I had not decided to step back from teaching, I may have been asked to step back or forced to, for, the other option would have been that. And since I kind of don't mind the idea of retiring, and now, of course, I'm all for it. But in the meantime, what happened, and I don't want to get into the weeds too much because there's no need to tell everything about it. But the upshot of everything that has happened right now is that I was under the naive assumption, which was naive on my part, that I would be allowed to only teach 2 classes. And of course that didn't happen. So I'm back to a regular schedule. And because perhaps silly me in this discussion about my, what would help me, suggested that perhaps what would help me is to not teach everything on 3 days, but to stretch it out. So of course, look who has to now teach every day of the week next semester, as opposed to, so I've gone from the idea, a naively assumed idea that I would be allowed to only teach Monday, Wednesday, Friday 2 classes, to now teaching those 2 classes and another class, the fairy tale class, which is not all bad, but I've never taught it 2 days a week and at 8:30. So great. And it's partly my own doing because I said maybe it would be better to teach spread it out. But I have to admit that my naivete was sort of thinking, well, maybe they'll still let me get by with 2. But it's all water under the bridge now, and I've made my peace with it. But I'm going to be just as busy as I've been in the past years. It's not over yet, so to speak. But as everyone keeps saying, it's only 1 more year because at the end I will retire. So that's the big work thing. And in a way, I guess it's good to have clarity on that and to sort of try and see some kind of silver lining in the fact that I have to teach at 10 o'clock on 3 days and 8:30, just 1 class. And then I'm going to rush home and just kind of pretend it didn't happen. No, I mean, I'll have to get ready and work. But it's the only other time I taught every day was when I first came here. So, and I shouldn't, there are people who have much heavier schedules, everyday high school school teachers of all kinds. So we're fine. That's that. And then the other thing is my trip was fine. It was great. Everything about it was great. The only thing that gives me pause about it this time, there's always something where I was kicked over the edge of my abilities in terms of fatigue and disposition. So coming back is always stressful. Now, this time it was slightly kind of compounded by wondering whether they would sort of want to look at my phone, although that didn't happen. I mean, except for one minor issue where I got sent into a line that did lead to the back area, but then I was quickly sort of shooed away as someone who they didn't want to talk to. the issue is, so you get off of your flight, which was fine, but you're tired. I'm always tired. I'm in a way more tired after that flight than the one going to Germany, because it's like you're coming back into a few hours later, even though you flew for 9 hours. And that kind of is weird. And then you, what happens? First, you get through all of the slightly daunting customs stuff, which in this case was actually quite well done, much better than last time, because they siphoned off everyone better. They siphoned off the green card holders in their separate line, which at first I thought was like, oh, that's because we're not, we're going to take longer. But because there's fewer of the actual green card, so you have people who are just on a holiday visa who are just visiting. You have citizens, if there's quite a few of those, and then you have people who are legal permanent residents, and there aren't that many of us. And so that all went fine. And you're glad to get out of there. And then you pick up your bag and you roll it around, and then you give it back to the people who are taking it to your final destination. No, wait, yeah, that's right. Because I did check one bag. And then you get out into the airport of Chicago. You take a train, a little, airport train. And then you have to go through security again. And that at that point, you're not that early. So you're in a big, long twisty line of people who are getting on the local flights from Chicago to places inside America. And even to get there, I had to walk a long ways through the tunnel thing from one terminal to another, well, from one concourse, from the A concourse to the C concourse. And then that line was terribly long. And at that point, I'm just so tired, and thirsty, and just at the end of my tether. And that's what I'm sort of rethinking, that part of the trip. So how to avoid having to go through security again and all that stuff. And the only thing I can think of doing, might be worth it though, is the only direct flights to Europe from Cincinnati. So where you fly back to Cincinnati and have to go through customs at Cincinnati, which I'm sure is much less of a hassle than at Chicago or New York. If I were to fly home directly to Cincinnati from either London or Paris, so I got to get myself to those places from Germany, take a train to Paris and fly home. And of course, if you're going to take a train to Paris, you might as well spend a few days there. I don't know. We'll see. Or even what I've always wanted to do, my bucket list thing is to take the train under the channel to London. So, but on the other hand, I'm just kind of like over travel for a while. So it was a wonderful trip, and I didn't blog that much. You've seen a few things of Shawnee and me having a great old time together and just kind of completely being quiet and completely like reading a book. I read this book while I was there, like, unfortunately on the Kindle. I wish I could have read it like this, but the Kindle was okay. I got used to it. But I think I would have gotten even more out of it if I'd read it in a book. But I didn't want to take it with me. And so in terms of sort of life stuff, the big event coming our way in my life is at the end of July. My friend Freddie, who I visited last time in California, and I made a vlog about that, and it was wonderful. She's coming to visit. She's our first house guest in 10 years. Yes, we have a small house, and people know we have 4 cats, and I think for some people that's a reason not to visit, which I understand. But she's like, can I come visit? Like, yes, of course you can. And she's like the perfect first house guest because she's just so accommodating and nice and friendly and whatever. So we're kind of nesting, and we're going to probably purchase new garden furniture, and we have to figure out the whole seating thing because we just have 2 chairs. Anyway, it's going to be wonderful. I'm going to reconfigure my room as a guest room, or at least as a room that can be my room and a guest room, better than it is now in terms of the bed and stuff. So that's exciting. And then after that, in August, I want to think about it, because actually my new schedule does mean I have to sort of turn my 3-day fairy tale class into a 2-day fairy tale class, which is a little tricky in terms of what assignments and everything. But I've been given sort of to understand that, I'm supposed to just have fun with it. It's my last year. I'm supposed to just not even come to the office, and sort of they were trying to talk me into the fact that I don't want to, because at the beginning I was a little bit upset. I was like, well, there is another option, that is that I quit straight away, but I'm not going to do that. No, don't worry, I'm not quitting. I am going to do it. but I've been told to just go teach my other, like, 8:30 class and then come home and not worry about going to my office or anything, and do it kind of in a way that is good for me. I think we're at the point where I can switch over to reading stuff. But I think just a final comment about how the fact that I've been sort of unsettled because of this future stuff, it has affected my reading, and I'm also kind of always wondering, because I'm getting older, am I getting less able to read, or not in any kind of deep way? And I think it's more just this state that I'm in has made me. It's not exactly a slump. It's more extreme moodiness and sort of picking things up and putting things down. That kind of, which is sort of slump-esque, perhaps. I don't know. And not really being able to sort of find comfort in your books as much. It's been a bit like that for me. And so, for example, I put down the Ivanhoe. And another sort of symptom of that is that I'm behind in my reading thing. I've stopped putting stuff in. Partly, I think, because the trip kind of was coming up. I put Ivanhoe in here, and then I said ditched Ivanhoe on in April, at the end of April. And then I started with things that I'm actually still reading, almost finished with some of them. And so the last time I made it was in the beginning of May, so I'm a little behind. It's actually not that bad. I mean, I guess we're June now, so I'll get back into it. And so let me show you I only bought 2 books when I was in Germany because I wasn't really into buying things because of lack of space and everything. I mean, I could have been, but I held back. The most exquisite used bookstore on the other side of my Shishi hotel, which I never go back to because if I fall into that place, I'll never get out of it. And then the proprietor's really friendly too, and I'm kind of scared to go in there because I really think I want to buy everything. And the only book I got was one that was on the front. Here's a really interesting display of cheap books on the front. And so the only one I got for €5 is a German Zola. So I read him in English, and my French is not good enough to read him in French. But I figured, and this is actually the one that I'm at anyway, it's The Conquest of the Plaisance, Die Eroberung von Plaisance. They don't do it with a genitive, they do it with a dative. I got this one because it's like, well, it's like perfect. And it's a nice little hardcover edition, nice print, kind of, it's light for a hardcover, and I like a little hardcover. And I thought it would be interesting enough to read Zola in German. It's another foreign language that, I'm able to read them in. And then the other one I actually got from they have a lot of free book. They oftentimes put them into old telephone booths, which I think is a great idea. I think this is one of those. So it could have even spent longer looking. I was just waiting for someone or waiting to go to a store or something. And this is Arthur Schnitzel, another Austrian. They're just, I don't know, I'm obsessed with the Austrians right now. Blame it on my student, I guess, my independent studies student. We were reading Kafka and then Bernhard. And now this is Arthur Schnitzel, the 19th century writer and modernist, who's sort of in the American world. People know him from Eyes Wide Shut, the novel that Kubrick turned into a weird movie with Cruise and what's her name? Nicole Kidman. This is a novel that I wasn't aware of, but I would love to read it. Therese, Chronic of a Woman's Life. So this is a really nice, clean, pristine, well taken care of little book here that I found for free. And for some reason, it as we say in German, es hat angetan or something. Es hat es mir angetan. And so it's also kind of light for a little hardback. So I bought those 2 home with me. And that's about it for purchases. I mean, I did buy other things, but not book-related stuff. And so let's get into my current reading. So first of all, I'm not going to do a whole review of this because I don't feel up to the task. I'm still kind of processing. It's so Left Hand of Darkness by Le Guin, which was published in 1969. And considering it's that old, it's very, very sort of modern, very topical, and deals with the whole focus on this planet of people who are have no gender except when they're in Kämmer, when they're sort of in sort of heat, I guess, And so the one lonely guy who I really liked as a narrator, some people think he's sort of misogynist. I mean, he is limited by the fact that he's a guy and he's sort of from 1969. But anyway, I did like Genli or Genli. I think it's funny that his name is AI or AI, the main character, the main narrator. Although there are other types of narrative in here because it's sort of it's his report back to the planet, or where his planet Terra Earth, about this other planet called Gethen, and the people on here are agender. They're genderless, and so it's funny how their kind of view of him is they call him the pervert because they cannot conceive of a race where people are basically always in heat. So that's already very interesting, and she's just so good at exploring it, and the writing is superb and restrained but beautiful, and the descriptions of the planet are fantastic. So it's definitely, literary fiction at its best, and happens to be science fiction at its best too. Loved it, but want to reread it to get. I don't think I got everything out of it. It's not the kind of book that you race through and just. It's sort of, because of the different types of narrative, you kind of miss things. I think, or I did, but it was very, very good, and I loved it. And it's sort of poignant too, the relationship between him and his buddy, guy, gal, person, non-gendered entity. I like that person too. Le Guin does kind of comment somewhere that she's aware that by using he and him so much for the person from the planet, that's kind of, you can't help but conceive of him as a he or him more than a her, even though Genli's sort of comments on the fact that their voice is sometimes like a woman's. But to be honest, I did kind of these are two guys in the winter time doing, they have a big chunk of the book is them traveling through the snow and on this glacier to get to safety. And it really does read for me like two guys kind of doing it, strange fellows from different planets. But I really like their relationship. It's very interesting and sort of layered and nuanced. My favorite words, So yeah, good times for that. And then I'm trying to think if there's anything. Oh yeah, let me talk about my listen, which is sort of straight up bestseller. Not bad, not great, but it's not bad. It's good. It's David, whatever his name is, Gustafson, Snow Falling on Cedars, which is about sort of American-Japanese relationships to do with the war, and on this island out there in the West where there's strawberry farms, and there's a sort of mystery at the center, or a murder case at the center of it all, but then it kind of goes back into the history of things. It's well written. It's sort of like movie stuff for me. Like it could be a movie. It's sort of, there's not that much of interest in the way that the story is told, so sort of straightforward, and I'm not sort of knocked over by the brilliance of the prose, but it's adequate, and I'm having this avuncular guy read it to me, the guy who read the cat mysteries, George Goodell, I think. He's got this very sort of, ooh, jolly, I'm a jolly uncle type voice, very sort of, I don't know, slightly older. And so that adds something to, I think he does a good job with the characters, the sheriff and all the people in it. But when he reads the women, it's a little bit sort of, he puts on a woman's voice. It's a little bit, but he's good. So that's going quite well. It's a long book. It's taking me a while to listen to it. I guess I'm not always in the mood to listen to it, so that could be part of it, the mood thing. But then my other book, I'm falling back in love with one of my, just such a strange writer, but I do love him. Another Austrian 19th century Adalbert Stifter, and it's called the Folder of My Great Grandfather. So what a strange title for this novel, but then again, it's a strange novel because it's Adalbert Stifter, and I think he probably painted that painting on the front because he was a painter as well. Picture of a town in Austria that he painted. And anyway, so the title is interesting because it hints at the strangeness of Stifter's way of telling a story, which is to bring in different layers of frame and then call the story the actual physical object that the papers are found in, which of course are not really, well, they become part of the story because actually the narrator, who's the one who finds the folder, it takes a while. It takes us at least 50 pages, if not more, before we get to the actual telling of the great grandfather's story. And but still, that doesn't really seem to be reason enough to call your story The Folder of My Great Grandfather, or great grandfather. But maybe I haven't finished it yet, so maybe that will become clear as to why he called it that. Why did he call it the folder? Why do you call it the folder, the purse I found the money in? It's so strange, but it's typical Stifter. And he's such a sort of, he's always about, it's a fairy tale-esque world where there is no, where friction is there, but not at the same time. And it's always, and it's never there. There's never any tension or friction when people are interacting with each other. There's actually no friction on the surface. It's all kind of in the background somehow. Oh, and maybe there's no friction. I'm being vague, but and it does kind of remind me of Robinson a little bit, Marilyn. So she's also someone who's a very good writer, but it's not about. But well, I guess Gilead more than the other ones. So this man who's all just in his head, and but I guess there was friction there too. But it's sort of not on the surface. It's somewhere else. It's not there, but it's there kind of thing. I don't know. And so I can give you more examples of it. I will. I want to try and get into what makes him such an interesting writer for me. And he really kind of does. There is something really soothing. That's why I'm saying it's fairy tale-esque. It's about kind of seeking harmony and seeking symmetry and seeking solace from sort of harmonious relationships. And, in the background of all of this is the fact that he himself never could. I was just reading someone saying, and it's true, in his books, people are always, it's this sort of a typical scene of, I was given money by someone and I handled the money extremely well. I was able to really, show that I'm able to handle money well. And actually, I guess in his real life, he was not able to handle money really well. And he suffered from poverty until he got a job at the end. So it's as if that's why there's this kind of, the world he evokes in his fiction is not the actual, reality, which is, that's probably part of why I am drawn to it, especially these days where harmony and getting and people who should be at odds with each other are extremely not at odds. Like this one interaction he's just had with the woman who was with this other man together, and anyway, it could have been very kind of negative or tense, and it's not. It's very sort of, they get along and they decide to do these certain things, and they all kind of agree on things. So yeah. Anyway, I'm loving it. But all of this is going very slowly. Part of it is that even in these days, I'm gonna hope, that's kind of a main reason why I want to do the whatever this is going to be called, the episodes, to be accountable for my reading in a way that I haven't been to you all. Hi to you all, and I appreciate you all for watching and commenting. I'm watching a little bit more of people's stuff too. I haven't been commenting that much, but I will start. And I appreciate everyone's works there too, even if I don't comment that much, because we're all busy and stuff. This is 25 minutes. It's raining right now. It's a really dark and dreary day out here today in the Ohios. I will let it go at that, and I hope everyone's doing well. Tell me what you're reading, and I'll report back sometime next week. It's a Wednesday today. No, it's Thursday today, sorry. So maybe towards the end of next week will be the first episode. This is the inaugural episode. And then the next week will be episode 1 of whatever we're going to call this. So I'm excited. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.